Welcome to episode 4 of the Moor XR podcast, the latest in augmented reality to virtual reality and everything in between. It's brought to you by Moor Insights and Strategy. I'm Anshul Sag, Moor Insights and Strategy principal analyst covering XR, 5G, smartphones, PC, cloud gaming, and much more. So let's get started. This week we have two guests on the podcast in a panel format to talk about the latest developments in mixed reality with Lynx's CEO Stan Larroque and Qualcomm's GM of XR, Hugo Swart. I just wanted to start with the podcast by having each of you introduce yourselves. Hugo, could you go first?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Anshul, for inviting me for this podcast. So, as you mentioned, I am the GM of XR at Qualcomm. So I run the business, started actually the business from ground up about 6 to 7 years ago. And working with the chips, the reference designs, the software, technology, partnerships, customers, and so forth. Happy to be here.
And Stan.
Yeah, hi. I'm Stan Larroque, and I'm in Paris office of Lynx, and I'm the CEO of the company. And we've been working now for the last 2 years with Hugo's team to deliver Lynx, which is a standalone headset for mixed reality.
Great. Those are great intros. Thank you very much. So I guess we'll start with my first question, which I think is a good starter question. And I'll start with Hugo, and then I'd like to hear from Stan. Some people may not be familiar with the term mixed reality or not fully understand what it means. What is your definition of mixed reality?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, let me start by saying, we believe that we are on a journey. Right, on a journey from 2D computing, right? Smartphones, PCs, TVs, even books, right? So all 2D medium of information exchange. And we're going to 3D computing or spatial computing. And in that journey, of course, you have virtual reality, where you have a fully occluded device. Everything is digital. Everything is synthesized. Now, when you have augmented reality, we think about a glass, right, with optical see-through. And, we're a few years out until we have an AR glass that has the field of view that everyone wants. So then mixed reality, we use the term as, having augmented reality experiences on a VR headset. And how you do that? You have a fully occluded device still, but then you use RGB or color cameras to pass, what the real environment is to the display of the VR headset. So essentially, we use the mixed reality more as a feature than a device. So mixed reality as a feature that you have on the VR headset, where you get the wide field of view of a VR headset. But then by seeing the real world, I can start offering really rich augmented reality experiences. I mean, that's how we're using it, And by the way, I really like, that we started using the term XR, X as a variable here, where you have virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. So we start to see all these converging, and and we found that the mixed reality was a good term to use on this mode of experiences, and actually another thing on mixed reality that I think it's important to highlight is that in mixed reality we can really go from zero digital and everything real to fully digital. So you have the full spectrum of realities that we can offer through this mode.
And Stan, how do you see mixed reality?
To complete what Hugo just said, I think mixed reality is a technology that will allow us to change forever the way we interact with what we call virtuality today. And Hugo said it best when it's anything in between augmented reality and virtual reality. You can cover the full spectrum of immersive technologies with a VR headset that can also do augmented reality. And this is what we're been trying to do at Lynx now for the last 2 years, and the development is finally coming to an end. And we are bringing not a pair of glasses that we might see between 5 and 10 years, but the first all-in-one headsets products that are going to achieve that.
So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, now that we've got the definition out of the way, what are some of the reasons you've chosen to pursue mixed reality rather than AR or VR independently of one another?
Well, my answer to that is quite simple. I really believe, like some other very big companies, that VR and AR are intermediate terms that will both converge to mixed reality, and that's both the cheapest way and also the most effective way to achieve what we all really want. And what do we want is that interact with virtual things like they are part of our world, and either in a fully virtual environment or in your home. And this is why I wanted to work on those interfaces, and that with my team, we dedicated all our hearts to this passion and created the device the way it is. And when you look at other devices on the market, it's either covering VR very well. For example, you can look at the Facebook Oculus offering, which is a great VR device, but it's just VR. And on the other hand of the spectrum, you have, like Hugo described, optical see-through devices that are a pair of glasses that are barely doing augmented reality at the moment, and they're not touching anything else. So I think mixed reality is in the near term and probably on the long term too, the most effective way to reach the future we all want.
And Hugo, do you have any thoughts on why you guys pursued mixed reality versus keeping AR and VR as separate domains?
I think it's just AR. I agree with what Stan said. The AR that we all want, it's still a few years out, right? The display and optics, they're getting better. Don't get me wrong. I think that, even you look at the devices out there like the Lenovo A3 or even the HoloLens, they're very good for certain applications. These are going to get better and better every year. But really, for you to get to 100 degrees field of view with optical see-through is a few years out. So then, to me, it's a very natural evolution of virtual reality, of trying to bridge the two, right? We don't see, mixed reality as a device that I'm going to be walking on the street with it, right? That's really, the AR glasses that we all want. But for indoor experiences, it's going to provide great augmented reality as a feature into a VR headset. So then, when we look into XR2, you were there in 2019 when we announced, at Tech Summit, we already hinted that we had included the underlying functionality on the hardware side to support mixed reality. What we call true mixed reality. And I can tell a little bit more on what's under the hood and how we enabled it.
Yeah, that actually kind of leads me into my next question, which is, what are some of the biggest challenges you've experienced in making mixed reality happen for your company?
Okay, so maybe let me start with that, Stan, and then I'll pass it to you. So really, the number one challenge on making great mixed reality is latency, right? For those of you in the follow virtual reality, we have talked in the past about motion to photon latency, right? The time that you move your head to the time you see the effect on the display. Here we talk about photon to photon latency. The light coming in to the camera, the light coming out, to the display. That's what we call photon to photon latency. And when you think about camera coming in, images coming in, processing the chip and shown on a display, well, that's what I do on a smartphone today, right? When I press the camera app on my phone, that's what it does. I see the real world. So, hey, why can't I just do that in a VR headset? Well, because we're way more sensitive to latency in that when you have the display right in front of your eyes versus when you have it on a smartphone. So we had to basically re-architect our image pipeline, how we deal with each camera frame. When you get, even on a phone or a VR headset, you have a sensor, right? From the camera, that passes to the chip, and then the chip is going to, have serial tasks on how to process that frame. And when in a smartphone mode, it takes, anywhere, or you can go above 30 milliseconds. Well, if you have more than 30 milliseconds in a VR headset, you're going to get dizzy, very quickly. So that was the main challenge. We actually had to change how we process those images on XR2. And instead of serializing all those tasks, we look at it from an end-to-end perspective, from a system perspective, and said, hey, we can't do that. We need to do in one step. Light comes in, the image comes in. I don't even wait for the full frame to arrive. I can do it in chunks and do one step from camera, chip, display. And that's how we're able to get actually less than 10 millisecond photon latency. So it's quite an achievement. We feel we were able to get through using XR2, less than 10 millisecond. Caveat here is that, of course, it depends on the display, LCD versus OLED and so forth. So the lower than 10 millisecond, it's really if you had the best lower latency display. So there are a few other challenges, but that's the main one that we addressed in XR2 and making available to customers. And we're very happy to work with Lynx to get this customer this feature out the door. I don't know if Stan, any other challenges that maybe you want to address that you kind of solved to enable mixed reality?
Yeah, I have a few ones. About that. For us, we see two challenges here. The first one is the technical challenges of enabling that. And here Qualcomm has been the best partner to provide a technology platform that enabled us to do this all-in-one device, without any cable. So you can go practically anywhere with the device now. And it's a huge feat of engineering because you have to take into account everything, not only the chipset itself, but also, like Hugo said, the display, the sensor, the power consumption, and it all comes down to the thermal management of the device as well. So it's a great challenge. It's something that our engineering team has had a lot of fun to do and was very hard. And we are also seeing a challenge on the user side of things to enable mixed reality, because people know VR because the big tech companies are educating the masses now to virtual reality. Some of them also know augmented reality. And we're bringing very fast something very new that combines those technologies. So it's really hard, and there is a lot of education to do with the users about how it will completely change the way we approach virtuality. So there are a lot of challenges, and we are very, very happy to work on this, and especially with Qualcomm and all the partners we have at Lynx to enable that.
So maybe Anshul, if I may, something else that is important is not exclusive to mixed reality. Even in virtual reality, we want that, but is having the headsets lighter, right, and smaller, right, so that you can have a little more movement within your space. Since now you can see the real world, and that's something I really like the work that Lynx has done to miniaturize to make it thinner. And Stan, maybe you can comment a bit more on how were you able to do that?
Yeah, good question. So it's both about the weight and the weight distribution and the lightness of the device. And to achieve that, you sometimes have to try new things, especially on the optics and the display you're using to try to shrink the device. We are far from a pair of glasses, like we all said. But look at that; it's only like 2 finger of width in the front part of the device. It's really, we are getting away from the brick that you put in front of your face, and it's getting lighter and lighter by the years. So we were able to do that by combining all the electronics into one very small volume, and also using new techniques on the optics for the VR part of the headset. And we also put the battery at the back of the head. So it brings 2 stuff with this approach. First, you move a lot of the weight away from the nose and the cheekbones of the user. And it also allows you to have less less stress on your neck muscles. So you have a better weight distribution, and you're putting away a lot of volume. So it's a bit more expensive on the device because you have to design more parts, and it's more plastic for the moment, but it's part of why Lynx is so thin.
That's good, because you kind of answered my next question, which was, what makes headset design for mixed reality different from a VR and AR headset, but maybe you can kind of address that a little bit more clearly in terms of the differences.
Yeah, the first one, and it also gets back to what Hugo said in terms of feature, is that when you look at a mixed reality headset, it's a smarter VR headset. It's a VR headset that has more cameras, more sensing. So you can say it's the same, and then you just had 2 cameras, right? But first, you have to put latency out of the way. And you also have to do something that is called reducing the parallax. So you want your virtual eyes, those cameras, to be as close as your eyes as possible. This is also why we wanted to shrink the device down. So you can have a perfect continuity between what's virtual in front of you from the camera feed and the peripheral vision that you have directly on the world around you. So the design is completely different, and you have to look for completely other metrics on the ergonomics. Also, the use of the headset is different. When we think about VR today, it's mainly entertainment and communication. So people are usually sitting in a chair, and maybe they're getting up for some games. But AR, it's almost always getting up, walking, doing to different places, having a very robust 6DoF algorithm to position holograms. So the device looked the same, but trust me, it's very, very different on the inside.
And Anshel, maybe also to complement a bit there's the hardware component, yes, which I think Stan addressed. There's also software, right? So now, is this, a virtual reality way of developing, application, or is it AR? And I would argue it's closer to AR, right? It's you need a lot more information about the environment, right? So you need more AI, for that kind of a 3D reconstruction, semantic segmentation and understanding, and then having the APIs for then developers create those mixed reality applications. So now as we already talked about it, but you're going to see more and more us talking about OpenXR, right? Being compliant with OpenXR, being able to expose these functionalities in a way that developers can more naturally utilize across platforms. So we're taking that approach, and then add more and more features to it. One more thing we mentioned when we announced XR2 is that compared to its predecessor, we were offering 11 times more AI capability, right? So I mean, this is a good example where you need a lot of user understanding, meaning, the hand tracking, the eye tracking, the head tracking, as Stan mentioned, but also environment or environmental understanding. So, a lot of AI required for that, and it will differ in virtual reality, as in virtual reality you didn't need as much. You still need, of course, in virtual reality to have your play space and obstacle avoidance and so forth. But with mixed reality, we take that to the next level.
Okay. Yeah, well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which is around the user interactions, and like, what are the fundamental differences in user interaction from mixed reality, from AR or VR, and maybe what are the similarities? I'd love to hear from Stan first.
Yeah. So if you start with VR, again, it's mainly for entertaining today with games, where gaming is very strong here. So you see all that the main input of this medium is controllers, 6DoF controllers, where you have triggers, buttons, you can be very precise. And you need to have that if you have a VR aspect to your device. But when you get into AR, the use case shifts a little and the inputs can be completely different. And we are seeing a lot of professional use the AR component of a mixed reality headset. And so when you're working, you want to be hands-free, and you don't want to have plastic controllers in your way. And you want also, because you're interacting at the same time with your real environment, you want to be able to use your hands as the main input. And this is why we put so much effort and dedication along with Qualcomm and Ultraleap to deliver hand tracking as the main input in our device. It's more natural. It's a controller that is universal. You don't need to charge it. You never forget it. And it's way more natural than anything you ever experience with a headset. And we are going to show more of that next week, actually, online.
Hey, Stan, actually, I saw a YouTube video today where you had a first glimpse at AR hand tracking in your device.
Yeah, and you're going to see another video tonight for your time, where we show that with the color video see-through as well, with the virtual hands completely aligned with the virtual one, and it opens so much for interaction and new way of utilizing the device. So yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it too. The thing is that I saw for a long time ago that hand tracking was going to be the base level interaction for both AR and VR for minimum viable for interfaces, because people do forget controllers. And to your point, you don't forget your hands. You don't need to charge your hands. And a lot of people, when they first try out VR, one of their first questions are, where are my hands? So I think I realized that early on that, this was going to be a valuable user interaction. And I'm glad to hear that you guys are really focusing on it first and foremost when you're talking about the Lynx headset. So that's great to hear, and I look forward to seeing more updates on the hand tracking. That kind of leads us to the next question, but not really. I wanted to ask you about enterprise focus, and specifically the fact that right now AR and VR are both pretty focused on enterprise, with some consumer here and there, but a lot of the focus is enterprise. So what do you see are enterprise applications for mixed reality, and maybe even some consumer if you see any?
Hugo, please.
Sure. Well, I'm going to talk about first my favorite. Okay, my favorite is we're calling it holographic telepresence, right? Just a fancy name to say collaboration, right? So basically, the ability to have, I have, and that applies, of course, to VR, AR, But now I think MR becomes even more interesting, right? Where can be enterprise or consumer. But if you imagine, the enterprise environment, during the pandemic, we all had challenges to have really, strong collaboration spaces, right? Where I can do whiteboarding, where we can more easily exchange ideas with people. 3D design as an example, how do I review a 3D design together, annotate on it, and so forth. So to me, that's to me my personal favorite. If I have two people in mixed reality, or you could have one in VR and other in MR, but you could have two people in MR, maybe in the same room or in separate rooms. But let's say it's in the same room, right? We are in the same room. We put a mixed reality headset. We still have a awareness of our environment, but we can go over a 3D model and jointly, design that 3D model. So I really like that example as my favorite. But then, you can take that to the next level if you have people that are in separate environments and just want to work together in a same space. So that's one for sure. Then the one that I hear a lot as well is training, right? So training, yeah, you can do it in VR too. But hey, if I can have either a dummy setup or a real setup, the one use case I'm hearing a lot is if I want to learn to fly a plane, right? I can sit on the cockpit and then I have all the physical buttons and so forth. But hey, I'm not ready to take off. So then, you have the mix of the real world, which is, all the buttons and so forth. But then, it's digital, the experience that I get, what I see on the, through the glass. So, those are, I think, certainly two that come, on top of my mind. But Stan, I'm sure you have many more based on your customer interactions.
Yeah, on the more general level, what I've seen, through the very few years I've been in this industry, but is that it's very similar to when internet arrived. Internet changed the way we perceive space, time, and complexity, because we have immediately access to knowledge, to someone across the planet, and to view any kind of content from any time. And I believe that mixed reality will do the same thing again on another level. It will, by training, for example, it will reduce again what we think is complex. And I don't even know what we'll call complex for our kids in the future. Same with time and space, where you could interact with someone else that is that was in 100 years that was born in our time through AI, for example. So it opens a lot. Of course, it brings the Z dimension. So we finally have 3D. So anything around training, but more broadly education. Any kind of training, almost at any age with the devices we have today. Collaboration is mainly communication. We're social beings. Communicating is fundamental for us. And again, mixed reality devices like these ones are really great tools for the future we want for communication. And this is also why, for example, Lynx is connected with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And in the future, for future version, we're thinking about putting modems in the headset as well, alongside Qualcomm technologies. And it will happen. It's just now a matter of time from what I see in the industry. Also, you have all the entertainment. It's also very close to communication, but I see no future where these kind of tools won't be mainstream.
And one more that actually we have seen a few people in the industry talk about. I think Facebook showed something not too long ago as well. Is I'm not sure if they come up with a name, but I'm hearing more and more the infinite desktop, right? So the idea that I still, have my desk, right? But then instead of having, physical monitors, I can have, multiple, virtual monitors. I can have my WhatsApp, my web browser, my video, and I think that's how you start, this infinite office, is just having the 2D apps that I use today, but then, floating in space and configured as I want. And then, they become more 3D-ish, as more people have it. So now maybe I start having, my presentations or my graphics, now data, in 3D, which the tool will be able to do. So I think that's another very interesting low-hanging fruit, if you will, use case for these kind of devices.
When we try to also look at the big picture, it's a very, very natural step for humankind in terms of how we communicate between each other. When you look at history, we started with drawing in caves, then we invented writing, then photos, then videos, and now we are at that age where what's after, videos? You could answer that it's 3D, but we won't call it that. We call that photos, videos, and experiences. And we are in this age where we introduce experiences where it's not only about 3D, but how we will put ourselves in this 3D. So you have what you see and what the technology perceives of you. And you have a lot of work done on that and a lot of exploration about, for example, the hand tracking is the interface is no longer a keyboard or a touch screen. The interface is you. And it's just very, very natural. And again, this is why I won't see a future without these tools.
That's insightful. I appreciate that. I guess one of the questions I had was, in enabling this future, are there any kind of unique software features or APIs that you believe are critical to making mixed reality today possible as well as into the future? And I think I'll let Hugo start with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, APIs for, spatial computing, right? So it's essentially, the key AR APIs, the basic ones, for user understanding, the APIs for hand tracking, the APIs for eye tracking, for my head movement, and then the APIs for the world understanding, right? So the APIs for, what is a plane, and to the next extent, what object is that, and identifying, so it's really enabling developers with common APIs to be able to have those 3D experiences, as Stan was saying, mapped and locked into the real world. Another one that is, of course, important as we think about this collaborative experiences, and if you want to extend, to the buzzword, the metaverse, right? It's about persistence, right? So how do you enable persistence? So if I have a digital element, that I locked in this wall in my office, how do I make it that I leave my room, come back, it's still there? How do I make it that, others, coming into my office can see that, the cloud anchors and so forth. So those are important APIs as well that we need to come together. I mean, OpenXR, I think, has many of them. Extensions are needed, and I think we're working on that.
Yeah.
Stan, do you have anything?
Yeah, as a general answer to that, there are just so many APIs in spatial computing, because you can take all the APIs we already have in 2D computing, and then you had so much more sensors and fusion algorithm on top of that. So I think the developer community out there will expect a lot of out-of-the-box experiences given by the device. For example, 6DoF or hand tracking, or things that are already working, and that you don't need to play too much with that. And we are working with Qualcomm to deliver this kind of out of the box software. So the key thing here is the time to value. Like how do you make an application in 30 seconds? How do you create a new experience and deploy that? So we need things like OpenXR, and we need very strong software teams on the hardware part, of people that are making the headsets. You won't be able to have a new platform if the device is not doing, spatial understanding, 3D reconstruction, hand tracking. Most of smartphones out there are already doing that out of the box for developers. So the bar is already very, very high.
And when it comes to APIs, there's also, the developer APIs, but there are also APIs that we give to our OEMs, like Lynx. If you go under the hood, even, how to access some of the chip, functionalities on mixed reality, even the Parallax, that Stan was talking about, the Parallax issue. Yeah, there's a hardware component to addressing that, but there are also software components. And that I don't need to offer that to a developer, but hey, I need to offer that to the hardware customer like Lynx. So we work at these two levels, Anshul.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was very insightful. One of the other topics I was kind of curious about was around cloud rendering, as well as split rendering. And how do you guys see, split rendering using 5G or Wi-Fi working into mixed reality? And how does that, differ from, say, AR or VR?
Yeah, so maybe let me start there, Stan.
Yeah.
And then I'll pass it to you. But it's really about the richness of an experience that you want to provide. All-in-ones are great, right? But they have a limitation on how much power, you can dissipate. You take a gaming PC or, the cloud, hey, I can have an experience with 300 watts. Well, I cannot dissipate 300 watts on my head. But what if I want to have that 300 watt experience? Well, then I can distribute. I don't even like to call it, just, cloud processing. It's really a mix. There's still going to be tasks that you're going to be doing on the headset. There are more heavy, rendering tasks and so forth that you can offload, be it to a compute device in your house or in your office, or, in the edge of the cloud, right? And I think that 5G definitely has the KPIs that we need from a latency perspective, from a throughput perspective, to enable that split processing. And I think we're gonna see more and more of that as we move in the journey. And then the question is, when do I need that or not? And that's something that users can select. Developers can offer that capability, and I think that that's part of evolution that we're working on here at Qualcomm. I know, Stan, if you have anything else.
Yeah, to add a bit on top of that, on our side, for the state of things where we are today, we see split rendering and remote rendering as something that some professional users are asking because they have very high loads on GPU and graphics to render very complicated things that you cannot process on a mobile device. But we see the future of 5G for XR as key for intercommunication with numerous devices that want to share the same experience, where you can have a remote computer hosting all the graphics and sharing that to many headsets with their own perspective towards that experience. So 5G will be key in the next few years for XR. It needs to mature more on the software and the hardware for both power consumption and adoption from developers. But we're seeing very, very interesting things from some gaming studios that are trying that. But it will take maybe at least 1 year, 2 years for consumers to first experience 5G and XR at the same time on devices.
Now, one more scenario, where this can be accelerated is where the server, right, it's on-prem. So you could have an enterprise, right, with private 5G, for example, right, and have on-prem servers, and they build, the infrastructure for that split compute. We actually did together with the AT&T Harry Potter experience. It was VR, it was not MR yet, but MR could do that too. On the more location-based entertainment experience, where you remove the backpack, for computing, for having that rich experience. You have just a light headset with 5G, and then you have 5G coverage inside of a building. And then you can offer that as a way to accelerate that and have a controlled environment, for those experiences.
Great. I think that kind of wraps up the remote rendering topic. I kind of wanted to follow on to Stan with a question about the Lynx R1's Kickstarter, and the fact that it got fully funded in only 15 hours, which is, quite an achievement. Most people are happy to get it in 24 hours, let alone 15. And I was kind of wondering, what would you attribute to the excitement of this headset's Kickstarter, and how is, around mixed reality?
Yeah, I think there are a few things at play here. I've been working on Lynx. I started really having this video see-through and hand tracking and all that since for 4 years now, and seriously working on it with a team and people like Qualcomm for 2 years. And during all that time, we did not see a competitor that was doing what Lynx is doing today, with MR and hand tracking and all that, with state-of-the-art technologies. And it was a very low-hanging fruit for big companies, really. I'm a 15-people company. I cannot compete with the big ones, but no one was doing that. And it's a bit of hardware lottery, where Qualcomm developed the XR2, and we were finally able to process everything we wanted to do on a mobile device at an affordable price for consumers. And I think the success of our Kickstarter can be explained that people have been waiting for a device like that for years now. When I see, when I read the messages that I receive every day, people are really excited about something like that. So you're seeing our Kickstarter getting a lot of traction, but there are a lot of things happening backstage, and I think you won't stop hearing about Lynx in the next few weeks.
That's good to hear. I guess the last question I had was, I'll start with Hugo. Is there anything else you guys would like our audience to know about mixed reality that we maybe haven't covered here yet?
I think it's all about going back to how I started. It's the journey, right? For a glass that can do both VR and AR, that can substitute smartphones and all other compute devices that we have, which is still a little bit far out. So in that journey, you will have augmented reality glasses that are some are not even augmented reality, they're more smart glasses. Take the Ray-Ban, from Luxottica and Facebook. It's not AR yet, but you're getting more technology being built on a glass, on in front on something that you wear. So you're going to see improvements on that track. You're going to see improvements on let's call the all-in-ones like the Microsoft HoloLens, more enterprise focused, a little bit bigger, but with holographic experiences. So maybe those devices are going to start to get smaller and more capable as well. And then you have virtual reality. Now introducing mixed reality. So, I'm going to steal Stan's comment from the beginning. We're going to see convergence, right, of all of these. So this is one lane, right, that is being included on the journey. And I think it's a great one. It's a great one to get, the wide field of view, experiences with accessible devices, with technology that is mostly here today, and it's going to get better. It's going to get better and better. So I think that's the final remark on my side. And
on my side, I will just say that if mixed reality was just an issue of smart people and money, it will be solved, but that's not true, because you see the best teams on the planet, all the smart people I know, including my team here, are working on XR. It's a very hot topic in the industry, and a lot of companies are making strategic decisions around XR, like Facebook or Apple or Microsoft. Those are companies that have infinite supply of money. So there is a lot of investment made in that, and you should all still keep an eye for this new wave of man-machine interface that we're going to see. So it's not if it was just smart people and money, it will be solved. So I will join Hugo here and say that it's a journey. It takes time. It's very, very hard. But the end result is worth the effort for the whole industry. And to close, you're seeing a lot of announcements in VR and AR this month, and also in the next weeks with HTC, Facebook, and to get to the result we all want, of Hugo saying that we want those glasses that basically are Iron Man glasses and can do everything. You need to start by making these, and it's a very iterative process. And I'm very fortunate to work on these problems with teams like Hugo's teams and other great team in the industry.
That was very insightful. I really appreciate it, guys. This has been a very great discussion, and thanks a lot to Hugo and Stan for joining me. We hope our viewers and listeners found this week's topics interesting. If anyone out there would like to provide insights on a specific XR topic for a future podcast, please reach out to me on social media. I'm at Anshel Sog. We hope you had a great weekend, and please tune in again next week.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.